Hi there, Scandinavia. I promised you good news from Bowen Island, and boy, do I have great news. I am partly so enthusiastic and so jealous that I have first learned about the school right now. But tell me, Brad, what's your name
It's Brad Carter.
and where are we?
We are at Island Pacific School on Bowen Island, which sits in Howe Sound, or Nekhlalakan is the name of the island in Squamish. Howe Sound is the southernmost fjord in North America, and we sit right at the mouth of it in this beautiful location here. Yeah.
And this school, how old is it?
We're 30 years old this year. We're going to 30 years, which is amazing.
And
Yeah.
who started it?
So it was founded by a friend of mine, Ted Spear, built on this idea that middle school is a very special time in a child's life, second only to the development in the first 2 years of life. And we think that middle school kids often get lost in big schools, and we need to pay special attention to this time, because if you get it right here, if you do it right and do right by the kids, it sets them up for the rest of their school and indeed life all the way through.
Yeah, from what I've learned today, which has been a privilege, you would have enjoyed this so much. It's not just important with the grades and the curriculum. There's something more that's even more important here.
Yeah, I think so, particularly for kids this age, but I would say for children in K to 12 school everywhere. There are always two things we're trying to help the kids become, and one of them is academically strong. That's what we're asked to do in a school, prepare them for university or a job or whatever it is. So you need to learn things. But equally important, and maybe more important, well, I'll come back to that, is who they are as human beings, their character. Here, the school is founded on this idea of we're here to challenge and surprise the kids to become the best human beings they can. And that's in our mission and our strategic plan, to help kids become the best human beings. And one of the things humans do is they study things and become good at math and science and literature. But they also need to be persons of character. And so we have three words that we live by: wisdom, courage, and integrity. And everything we do is framed around that. And if we were to say which one is more important, you can't really, but we always put the emphasis on that character development, to the point where we'll stop a class to deal with an issue if we think it's big enough. We want these kids to feel like the adults in this community, not just in the school, but the parents who send their kids here and the community that we live in, really care about who these people are and who they're going to become. So that means if we have to sacrifice a math class sometimes in order to do something that we think is going to help the kids with their character development, then we'll do that. And we're lucky because we're small, we can.
Yeah, and the size of the school is also a choice, you told me.
Yeah, so we say small by design. We're a middle school, so that's grades 6 to 9, and we have just one class of each grade. So the building is built for 18 students. We think no more than that. Sometimes we have a bit less. We have 11 in one of our classes this year. But the idea is with that number of people, and we have a staff of about 7, we can keep an eye and really come to know the kids that we're working with. The kids sometimes squirm a little bit. There's no place to hide.
Yeah.
You know, you can see when they walk in the door that it looks like Sammy's having a hard day today. I often stand out. So one of my routines is I sweep the front of the school in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just kind of meditative, but it's also an opportunity for me to meet parents when they drop their kids off. And so you see them every morning, and if a kid seems a bit flat, then you go, oh, is everything okay? And it becomes a personal question for me, and the kids see that, me as the head of school or one of the teachers genuinely cares. Or they come bouncing into class and go, wow, it must have been a great morning. What was that about? And then we have an opportunity, every morning we start the school with something we call morning stretch. So at the beginning of every day, the students sit in a circle. We do a little simple stretch, sort of a yoga kind of thing, a little short meditation. And then the students lead the discussion for the morning. We go through what do we need to do today, any important events or reminders. But it's also that moment to say, oh, Louise, tell us about you won the ultimate game yesterday. Yeah. Tell us about that, right? So it's coming together to share every morning is really, really important.
Yeah. And I've heard from several places that this school is a very good school, and the students do very well afterwards when they get out in the real world. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because, as I said, we pay attention to who they are as, in their character. When from the ages of about 10 or 11 to about 14, those middle school years people are really vulnerable. You're learning to be your own self. You're separating from your mother and father and becoming who you're going to be. and you're quite vulnerable. So our argument is if you wind up in a big school with 500 or 1,000 students, all these things are thrown at you, and you literally don't know how to manage that. So spending a little bit more time so you become more comfortable in your skin. My daughter, for example, academically very, very strong, but one of those more shy, less social kinds of kids was in the school she went to before. It was smart kids aren't cool kids, and so she was feeling a bit bad about being herself, which means I love science. She went on to do a degree in molecular biology. But she wasn't allowed to do that. Here we say, yeah, if that's you, that's you. So when you get to high school, then you're able to stand your own ground. And that means you can pull more out of your high school experience and your university. And we have a lot of anecdotal evidence that says, we have one of our graduates is now a captain of a merchant marine ship. She went through the Canadian Navy, and she says she learned to be who she is there, captaining a ship, because of her experience here.
Wow.
We have a world-renowned photographer who says the same thing. I discovered my love of photography, and it was encouraged, and now this is what I do for a living, right?
And
so
you've been traveling around the world, and you're consulting around the world in other schools, and of course you work here, but you told me you still think this is the best school you've ever been working on.
I think so. I mean, I've been really fortunate. I taught here till about 10 years ago, roughly, and I left because I was possessed by this need to go and see how people all over the world solve the problem of how do we raise good young people in our communities. And I knew if I stayed here, or even if I worked in a large school district like Toronto District School Board, which is the 4th largest in North America, they have 250,000 students or so, I would still not get the perspective. I needed to know, how do people in the Middle East tackle this problem? How do people in Japan tackle this problem? And so I was head of a traveling school called Think Global School, which took us around the world. Then I worked for Apple for a number of years, where internally I was working with schools across North America and Europe and a little bit of Asia. And for the last 4 years, been consulting in schools around the world. So I've been really lucky to see either work in or on hundreds of schools over the last decade. And they're all really good. It's hard to get a bad academic education in most parts of the world. It's trickier to get the academic education and this kind of character development that we were talking about. And everybody tries that, but I think this school has figured out how to do that. And it works, and it's been doing that for 30 years. And that's why, I mean, you see people do that once or twice, but to do it consistently as part of your core being for 3 decades, that's remarkable. And so when the opportunity came to come back here and be in a school, I jumped on that. I wouldn't have gone to any other school in the world. And I've had offers, you do when you consult.
Of course.
People say, would you be interested in coming and work? And I've always said no. But when I heard this place, I thought, I have to be here.
I totally get it. So Brad, you've been so generous to invite us in.
It's delightful to have you
It's
here.
been wonderful, and back home, if you're ever curious about this, I'll put the link to the school. But may Danes and Swedish persons and Norwegians, may we come visit you?
Absolutely, anytime, and whether you can make it here, I mean, it's beautiful here, as
really
Louise will tell you. But if you want to connect and chat on Zoom or whatever, be happy to do that as well. As I said, I'm driven by this need to understand how do we solve this problem of helping young people become the best human beings they can. And always happy to talk to people about that.
Thank you so much. And it's certainly very certain that these young people out here, they feel very happy and very content about being here, which is a delight to see. So
that's always my test. I've been into enough schools that I can tell within the first 5 minutes of walking in. And to me, it's, are the children happy? And I don't mean, are they dancing around in that? Because I think they're happy here, but they work really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, my sort of motto is school should be twice as hard and twice as fun as life outside there, because we're preparing them, right? And you can see that when they're here. I hope you've seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. See you soon.